My mother begged me to come home for Christmas. I'm Claire Miller. I'm 30. And like a fool, I actually believed this year might be different. She FaceTimed me in London at 3 in the morning, mascara streaked, sobbing about how we never see you anymore. And the whole family needs you here. 10 hours on a cramped overnight flight, 2 layovers, a dead phone, and I still showed up on her doorstep in San Diego with a suitcase full of presents for my brother's kids. I stank of airplane coffee, my spine felt like it had been folded in half, and I was just tired enough to hope she'd hug me the way she used to when I was little. The door flew open. No hi. No, how was your flight? No hug. Just my mom's eyes dropping straight to my suitcase as she said, perfectly matter of fact, "You'll babysit your brother's kids. We're going on a family trip." Jason stepped into the doorway behind her, sunglasses on, duffel bag over his shoulder, Mia and Logan hanging off his arms. He smirked. "Hey guys, don't wipe your snot on Aunt Claire. She's jet-lagged." They all laughed like I was a walking punchline, my parents, my brother, his kids. Everyone cracking up while I stood there with airplane hair and a credit card bill full of tickets I'd paid for myself. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just felt something in me shut off. Like a breaker flipped. I smiled, set my suitcase down in the entryway, looked my mother in the eye, and said one single sentence. That was the moment everything turned. The laughter died. Color drained from their faces. My mom kept whispering, "No, no, no way." By the time I was finished, their dream vacation was gone, their house was suddenly at risk, and I was officially done being their unpaid babysitter and personal ATM. Stay with me until the end and I'll show you exactly how one ungrateful daughter wrecked her family's perfect holiday, and finally took her life back. When I said that one sentence, the whole room froze. But to understand why, you need to know what those people at the door had been doing to me for years. My mom didn't suddenly miss me when she called me in London. 2 weeks before that 3 a.m. FaceTime, she'd already texted me screenshots of sky-high Christmas airfare and resort packages, hinting that she and my dad could never afford a trip like that, unless I helped just a little. Just this once. Just this once was how every favor started. When my dad needed knee surgery, I wired money. When my brother Jason maxed out his cards on his big e-commerce idea, I helped consolidate his debt. When the water heater died and the mortgage was behind, I sent money, and watched my mom post photos the next week from a trendy new brunch spot downtown. I live in a tiny flat in London. I cook most of my meals at home. I walked to work in the rain. And somehow I was still paying for Uber Eats and half a dozen subscriptions in a house I didn't live in, on a continent I didn't even live on anymore. This time, before I booked my own ticket home, I paid attention. I saved every Zelle transfer, every PayPal receipt, every "Thank you, honey, we'll pay you back when things calm down." And I noticed something else. An email from the bank with my name on a mortgage I didn't remember agreeing to. A few years back, they'd put me down as a co-borrower, just to get a better rate. I'd been quietly covering their shortfalls ever since. So while my mom cried on FaceTime about how the kids miss you so much, Mia keeps asking when Aunt Claire is coming, I sat on my bed in London staring at my banking app, realizing the only time my family treated me like part of the team was when a bill was due. I almost said no. I almost told her to figure it out on her own. Then another thought hit me. If they were willing to drag me halfway across the world to use me as a free nanny and walking credit card, I was finally willing to show them what happened when I stopped playing along. I booked my flight. I also booked a call with a financial advisor, downloaded 3 years of bank statements, and used a legal template site to have a simple agreement drafted. So when I stood in that doorway in San Diego, Jason laughing, my mom announcing my babysitting schedule like it was already settled, I wasn't just the exhausted, jet-lagged daughter they were used to. I rolled my suitcase inside, let the kids climb around my legs, and followed everyone into the kitchen. Their printed itinerary was spread on the counter like a glossy promise, resort photos, flight times, family package in big bold letters. My mom tapped the brochure. "See? This is why we needed you here, honey. The kids will stay with you. We'll finally have a real vacation. You always say we should take care of ourselves." I glanced at the resort name, at her phone screen with the confirmation email open. I recognized the last 4 digits of the card on file. My card. That same cold switch flipped again. They thought I'd flown 10 hours to be their built-in nanny and bank. I had actually flown 10 hours to do something I should have done years ago. I smiled. Can you get everyone into the dining room so we can go over a few things before you leave? I asked. While they shuffled in, I opened my laptop at the table and pulled up the stack of digital receipts that was about to turn their vacation into the last time any of them saw me as a free resource. My dad sat at the head of the table like it was a formal family meeting. My mom hovered by the counter, clutching that printed itinerary. Jason slouched in his chair, scrolling his phone. Mia and Logan spun circles on the tile. I slid the laptop closer, angled the screen so all of them could see, and said as evenly as I could, the sentence that made every face in that room go still. Before you go anywhere, we need to talk about money. Jason groaned. Claire, seriously? Right now? My dad muttered about my timing. My mom gave me that wounded look. Honey, we've been under so much stress. Can we please not start a fight before we even leave? I didn't raise my voice. I just clicked on the first folder labeled Miller Household and opened a spreadsheet. Every line was dated, color-coded, and painfully clear. Last March, I began. You called because the mortgage was 2 months behind. I wired $1,200. In June, Jason's business expenses maxed his card. I sent $2,500. When the water heater broke, $900. Dad's truck needed new tires, $600. Past due electric bills, $300 here, $400 there. I scrolled slowly so they could watch the amount stack up, highlighting entries as I spoke. And this isn't counting Disney Plus, Hulu, Netflix, Spotify, your Walmart Plus, the cell phone plan, or all the emergency Venmo requests that magically line up with Black Friday and Labor Day sales. Jason sat up straighter, color draining from his face as he recognized his own. I swear I'll pay you back next month memo lines. My mom's hand flew to her mouth when she saw screenshots of her texts sitting next to deposits for gas to visit grandma, followed a week later by photos of her at a new nail salon. My dad's jaw clenched when he hit the PayPal transfer labeled knee surgery copay, and then the receipt for a brand new flat screen bought that same week. This isn't fair, my mom whispered. You're making us look like bad people. I'm not making you look like anything, I said. I'm just showing you what's actually happened. Then I scrolled to the bottom to the bolded total. In the last 36 months, I said quietly, I have sent this house just over $60,000. Silence. Heavy and absolute. Jason blinked hard. My dad stared past me at the wall. My mom kept whispering, no, that can't be right. That can't be right. Like repeating it would rewrite the math. I reached into my bag, pulled out a thin stack of printed pages, and set them beside the glossy resort itinerary. This, I said, is a simple agreement. Not a lawsuit. I'm not hauling you into court. It's just a document where all of you acknowledge you owe me this money and will start paying it back. Even slowly. $50 a month, $100, whatever you can manage. I tapped the $60,000 on the screen. All it says is this wasn't a gift. My dad finally snapped out of it. We're family, he barked. You don't put family in debt like that. What, are you going to sue your own parents? I met his eyes. Family doesn't hide a mortgage in their daughter's name and only call her when the payment's late. Family doesn't spend her money on vacations and brunch and then tell everyone she abandoned them. My mom flinched like I'd hit her. Jason grabbed the pages, skimmed the first paragraph, and his voice cracked. This is insane. I can't pay this back. None of us can. I know, I said. And I'm not expecting you to. Not all at once. But I'm done living in a world where you pretend you're victims, and I'm some selfish career girl overseas. If you ever tell a neighbor, a cousin, or Facebook that I left you with nothing, I will show them these numbers. Every transfer. Every bill I covered. Every time you chose Starbucks over the power bill, because you knew I'd fix it. My mom shook her head over and over. No. No way. You wouldn't do that, Claire. You wouldn't humiliate your own family. I'm not planning to, I shrugged. As long as you stop lying. Then I clicked to another tab. Their resort reservation. The logo filled the screen, along with their names, dates, and a little note at the bottom showing the last 4 digits of the card on file. My card. And about that family trip you're so excited about, I added, still calm. You might want to sit down for this part. My dad frowned. What are you talking about? I pointed to the line under the reservation number. Status. Cancelled. 3 days ago I called the resort and the airline, I said. Since everything was booked with my account and my card, I had every right. The package has been refunded. The flight credits have been moved. I closed the laptop halfway so I could see all their faces at once. So when I told you at the door that I wasn't babysitting while you went on vacation, what I meant was, there is no vacation anymore. Not without me. Not without my money. Not ever again on my dime. My dad lurched out of his chair when he saw the word cancelled. Like he could bully the screen into changing. You had no right, he snapped. Those are our tickets. They were bought with my card from my account with my money, I said. The right was entirely mine. Before he could spit something else, I clicked to the next window. And that brings me to the house we're sitting in. On the screen was an email from the bank with 2 names on it. Gary Miller and Claire Miller, co-borrowers. My dad stared at it, the color draining from his face. My mom whispered, Claire, please. Not this. We told you it was just paperwork. You told me it was a formality, I said. You told me it wouldn't affect me. But I've been the one covering your short payments for years. Every time you forgot a bill, my credit took the hit too. I clicked a button and a small video window opened. My financial advisor's face appeared in the corner of the screen, framed by her London home office. Hi, Claire, she said. Is now still a good time? Perfect timing. I turned the laptop so my parents could see. This is the person who helped me understand what being a co-borrower on your mortgage actually means, and what my options are now that I'm done bailing you out. Who is this? My dad hissed. She introduced herself politely, then laid it out in calm, precise language. As a co-borrower, my credit was tied to the house. Missed payments and constant shortfalls hurt me, and I had the right to go to the bank and request to be removed from the loan. In practice, she went on, that means the remaining borrower or borrowers would need to qualify on their own. They may have to refinance. In some cases, if they cannot meet the requirements, the property may need to be sold to satisfy the debt. You can't do that, my mom choked. We can't afford to move. We can't afford a higher payment. That's between you and the lender, ma'am, the advisor said gently. What I can say is Claire is not obligated to keep her name on a loan she doesn't truly benefit from, especially when she is the one making up the difference. I thanked her and ended the call. My heart pounded so hard I could feel it in my teeth. The room felt smaller, the air heavier. My dad rounded on me. You're going to make your own parents homeless over some numbers on a screen? No, I said steadily. I'm going to stop letting you gamble with my future, while you act like I owe you my entire life. If you can afford resorts and plane tickets when you think I'll be here to babysit, you can afford to sit down with a bank and figure out how to pay for your own house. I reached into my bag again and pulled out a folded letter. This is my formal notice that I'm stopping all automatic payments related to this property, I said. From now on, the bank will contact you directly. I'm also closing the joint checking account Mom convinced me to open, just in case there's an emergency. I couldn't help the air quotes. My mom made a strangled sound. But that's where the grocery money comes from. That's how we pay utilities. How are we supposed to manage all this? The same way every other adult in this country does, I said. With your own income, your own budget, your own consequences when you overspend. I opened another tab. A list of monthly auto drafts I'd set up over the years. Mortgage supplement, power, internet, streaming bundles, grocery deliveries, car payment, top UPS. Every line had my name next to the word payer. As of today, I said, my cursor hovering over the cancel button on each one. These stop. You'll get your own bills in your own names. If they're late, that's between you and the companies, not me and my credit score. Jason finally spoke, panic creeping into his voice. Claire, you can't just pull everything at once. At least give us time. I'm looking into more hours. I'll sign up for more delivery shifts, I swear. Just don't screw us like this. You're 34, I said. You have 2 kids. You should have been doing that years ago, without me dangling in the background as a safety net. He stared at the table, jaw tight. For a second I almost softened, almost slid back into the role they'd written for me. The fixer who cried in the shower, then opened her banking app and made the problem disappear. Then I remembered how they'd laughed at the door. The way my mom had said, "You'll babysit," like she was reading off a to-do list. Whatever softness was left in me shut right back down. I hit cancel on the autopays one by one. Confirmation emails pinged my phone. My mom's breathing went shallow. My dad sank back into his chair, staring at nothing. "This is cruel," he muttered. "You're punishing us." "I'm stepping out of a role you all cast me in without asking," I said. "And I'm giving you a chance to be honest about what you can really afford without hiding behind my bank account." I closed the laptop and stood. My legs shook, but they held. "From here on," I said, "if you tell anyone I abandoned you, remember I have every receipt, every bill, every transfer. I'm done being the villain in the story. You tell other people to make yourselves feel better." I picked up my suitcase and added quietly, "You wanted a real vacation. Maybe this is it. A break from pretending I'm your built-in solution to every bad decision. Let's see how you handle life without that." When my dad saw me rolling my suitcase toward the hallway, he finally snapped. He lurched to his feet so fast the chair scraped the tile. "If you walk out after this little show, don't bother coming back," he barked. "You're not welcome in this house if you're going to hold money over our heads." My mom reached toward my arm. "Gary, stop. She just needs to calm down. We can talk about this." But she didn't move to stand between us. Jason stared at the floor and said nothing. I paused in the doorway, hand on the handle, every muscle trembling. Part of me wanted to drop everything, apologize, promise I'd figure something out like always. Instead, I straightened. "You're the one who decided my value here is measured in what I pay for," I said. "If I'm not welcome without my credit card, then I was never really welcome at all." My dad jabbed a finger at the door. "Get out. And don't come crying to us when London chews you up and spits you out." I almost laughed. London wasn't what had been eating me alive. This kitchen was. I stepped outside. The California sun hit my face. I pulled the door shut behind me. No one followed. No one called my name. From the living room, I could hear Mia and Logan arguing about a cartoon, blissfully unaware that their vacation had just evaporated. I ordered an Uber and rolled my suitcase to the curb, feeling more homeless than I actually was. The driver popped the trunk. "Where to?" he asked. I took a breath and gave him an address I'd never given my parents. A high-rise downtown, 15 minutes from their quiet cul-de-sac and a completely different world. 6 months earlier, after one too many midnight transfers and guilt trips, I'd used my savings and my steady UX salary to put a down payment on a tiny one-bedroom condo. I told my family I was thinking about coming back to the States someday. I had already signed the papers. The plan was to move in slowly, quietly, once I figured out how to disentangle myself from their finances without detonating everything. That night proved there was no gentle way to do it. The Uber pulled up in front of a glass building that still didn't feel real. I swiped my key fob, wheeled my suitcase through the lobby, and rode the elevator up to the 8th floor. The condo smelled like fresh paint and new carpet. No one else's cooking. No stress. No desperation. Just empty. Just mine. I left my suitcase in the middle of the living room and stood at the window, looking out over the city lights. For the first time in years, my phone wasn't buzzing with, "Can you send something until Friday?" Or, "The card got declined, can you fix it?" I opened my banking app and pulled up every subscription and autocharge I still covered that wasn't in my name. Family Disney Plus, canceled. The Hulu bundle, canceled. Spotify Family, shared cloud storage, random Apple charges for games the kids downloaded, canceled, canceled, canceled. Each confirmation email felt like cutting another string that had been wrapped around my ribs for a decade. I brewed a cup of cheap grocery store coffee in my nearly empty kitchen and sat cross-legged on the floor because I didn't even own a couch yet. In the quiet, no mom sighing in the next room, no TV blaring, I was suddenly flooded with doubt. What if I'd gone too far? What if they really couldn't keep the lights on without me? What if I'd just become the selfish, ungrateful daughter my dad always warned me I'd be? Then I pictured my mother opening the door like I was hired help reporting for a shift. I pictured Jason joking about the kids wiping their snot on me while everyone laughed, already assuming I'd slide into place and make their fantasy work. Underneath the fear and guilt, something else settled in my chest for the first time in years. A thin, quiet layer of peace. They were absolutely going to feel my absence. Bills would arrive. Late fees would stack. The life they'd built on top of my invisible paycheck would start to wobble. But tonight, in this small, echoing condo, there was no one to rescue but me. I took a sip of coffee, opened my laptop again, and watched fresh emails roll in from the bank, the utility companies, the streaming services. All of them confirming what I already knew. For the first time, my family was on their own. The first sign that my choices were really hitting them didn't come from a call or a text. It came from Facebook. About a week after I moved into the condo, my friend Emma sent a screenshot with a single line. Have you seen this? It was my dad's profile. His name sat above a long dramatic status about how some kids forget who raised them the second they get a fancy job overseas, and how he and my mom had been left with nothing right before Christmas. He didn't say my name. He didn't have to. Our daughter flew in from London and decided money was more important than blood. Pray for us, he'd written. Comments streamed underneath from people who'd known me since I wore braces. So sorry, Gary, that's awful. Kids these days don't understand family. You gave her everything and this is how she repays you. One woman added. If she won't help, maybe set up a GoFundMe. We'll share it. My stomach twisted like I'd swallowed ice. He was doing exactly what I'd warned him not to do, turning himself into the helpless victim and me into the cold-hearted villain, rewriting the story for an audience that had no idea how many times I had paid their bills in silence. I paced my tiny living room, phone in hand, thumb hovering over the call button. I almost drove back to that house. Almost begged him to take it down. Almost offered to turn one of the payments back on just to make the public humiliation stop. The old version of me, the one who would fix anything if it meant the guilt would go away, was clawing at my ribs. Then I pictured the spreadsheet. The email tying my name to their mortgage. The stack of transfers. The way my mom had looked straight at my suitcase instead of my face. That image snapped me back. Instead of calling my dad, I opened my email and pulled up the thread with my advisor. I told her about the Facebook post, about how my family had been using my money for years while claiming they were barely getting by. Then I asked one simple question. Was there anything else I needed to do to protect myself now that I'd cut them off? She replied calmly and thoroughly. Document everything. Keep copies of every transfer and bill. Make sure the bank and any relevant agencies had the full picture of who had actually been paying what. She mentioned that in situations like mine, where one person is unofficially propping up a household that also claims hardship or receives certain benefits, it can sometimes be appropriate to ask for things to be reviewed, just to be sure everything's above board. I didn't need a step-by-step manual. I just needed to know I wasn't crazy for thinking something was off. Over the next few weeks, while my dad kept posting vague complaints about ungrateful kids and this generation, envelopes started showing up at the house on their cul-de-sac. I didn't see them myself. My mom's frantic text told me enough. Did you talk to the bank? She wrote one morning. We got a letter about reassessing the loan. They want updated information. Another day, early Monday. There's something from the IRS. I am freaking out. I thought you said everything was fine. Why are they asking questions? I had never said everything was fine. I'd said I was done fixing things in the dark. The bank wanted updated documentation for the mortgage. The utility companies wanted full payment instead of the quiet, partial deposits I'd been slipping in at the last second like an invisible janitor. The fog they'd been living in was finally thinning. There was nothing left between them and reality except their actual income. Jason texted next, asking to meet at a coffee shop near my building. When he walked in, he looked smaller without the sarcasm to prop him up. Dark circles under his eyes, stubble, a delivery bag slung over his shoulder. He dropped into the chair across from me. Dad needs to shut up online, he said immediately, rubbing his face. Those posts are making everything worse. He's embarrassing himself and Mom and, honestly, me too. And I know you're mad, but some of this, the letters, the calls, you did something, right? I took a slow sip of coffee and let him sit in that discomfort for a moment. What I did was stop pretending we were all being honest, I said. I talked to professionals. I made sure my name wouldn't go down with a ship I'm not steering. If that means some systems are finally noticing where the money has actually been coming from, that's not on me. He stared at the table, then sighed. I signed up for more shifts. Sold a bunch of my old tech. Moved the kids into one room so I could take a roommate and cut rent. Sucks, but for the first time I actually see what stuff costs. Groceries. Gas. Daycare. Before, I just knew if it got bad enough, someone would text you. Meanwhile, my mom started selling off designer bags and home decor she'd once paraded on social media, listing them online as barely used, when I knew exactly how often she'd carried them to brunch. The big sleek TV my dad bought after his surgery, his recovery entertainment, disappeared from the background of my cousin's holiday photos, replaced by an old boxy set from the garage. Their truck was finally repossessed one gray morning after too many missed payments. The kind of driveway scene they used to cluck their tongues at when it happened to neighbors. Now it was theirs. Through all of it, my dad never blocked my number. But he never called to apologize either. He just kept lobbing little grenades online. Vague posts about betrayal and ingratitude, hoping someone would carry them to me so I'd feel guilty enough to crawl back. He told anyone who'd listen that his daughter had abandoned him for money and status, conveniently skipping the part where most of the money had been flowing the opposite direction for years. I didn't respond publicly. I didn't jump into his comments to defend myself. I didn't post my own dramatic status with screenshots attached, even though the petty part of me ached to. I didn't have to. I had my receipts. I had my advisor. My credit was slowly untangling from theirs. More importantly, I had distance. Every time I saw someone share his story about the cold daughter in London, or heard through the grapevine about him holding court at the bar, calling me a disappointment, all I could think was, if they saw even one page of that spreadsheet, they wouldn't be asking why I walked away. They'd be asking how I stayed so long. By the time Christmas rolled around again, the Miller house was a different universe. So was mine. I found out in little sideways ways. A tagged photo of my mom at a discount store instead of her usual boutique. A grainy picture of Jason's kids in a small apartment instead of my parents' backyard. Comments from mutual friends asking if everything was okay. I didn't reach out. I threw myself into my job in San Diego, built my portfolio, and furnished my condo one paycheck at a time. I bought a second-hand couch, a fake tree for the corner, and strung cheap fairy lights that made the place look warmer than it had any right to. Then, one rainy Tuesday in December, someone knocked on my door. When I checked the peephole, my stomach dropped. It was my mom. She looked smaller. No full face of makeup. No carefully styled hair. Just a tired woman holding a reusable grocery bag to her chest like a shield. I let her in. My heart pounded. She stepped into my living room and turned slowly, taking in the couch, the view, the tiny tree with 3 mismatched ornaments. I didn't know it looked like this, she said softly. I always pictured you in something bigger. Fancier. I shrugged. This is what I can afford without paying for 2 households. She winced like the word stung. Then she opened the bag and pulled out an envelope. Inside was a check. Not for $60,000, not even close, but it was something. It's from selling things, she blurted, eyes wet. Bags, some jewelry, that coffee table you hated. And I've been picking up extra shifts at the office. It's not much, but it's a start. I told Jason we can't pretend it was all a misunderstanding anymore. For a long second I just looked at the check. It wasn't about the amount. It was about my mother, who had treated my money like it grew on trees, standing in my modest, very human-sized living room and admitting out loud that she'd used me. She sat gingerly on the edge of the couch and started to cry. Not the loud, performative sobbing from that 3 a.m. FaceTime. Quiet, broken little sounds. Your father still says you betrayed us, she whispered. He tells everyone you turned on your family because you think you're better than us. But I can't keep saying it. Not after seeing those papers. Not after the bank letters. We did use you. I did. I sat beside her, leaving space. I'm not asking you to hate him, I said. I'm asking you to stop helping him rewrite what happened so he doesn't have to feel guilty. She nodded, wiping her cheeks. Jason's working, she added. Really working. Driving late nights, doing warehouse shifts. He moved into a smaller place. The kids share a room now, but at least it's a place he pays for himself. He wanted me to tell you thank you. For the spreadsheet. I actually laughed. A short surprise sound. I didn't make that for him, I said. I made it for me. She studied my face. Do you think someday we could have a Christmas where you come over and it's just dinner? No money talk. No hidden bills. Just us. My throat tightened. Maybe, I said. But that only happens if everyone in that house understands I am not their safety net anymore. If I come, it's because I want to, not because there's a payment due. She nodded again, stood and hugged me. A real hug this time. The kind I'd been chasing for years. After she left, I put the check in a drawer. I didn't cash it right away. I just needed to know that, for once, the flow of money was pointed in the other direction. As for my dad, the last thing I saw from him was another vague post about family turning their backs. I muted him. Then I finally blocked his profile and his number. It didn't feel like slamming a door. It felt like closing a wound that refused to heal. That Christmas Eve, I sat alone on my couch, tree lights blinking, a cheap mug of hot chocolate in my hands. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel obligated to be anywhere else. No flights. No babysitting schedule. No emergency transfers. Just quiet. Just mine. Here's what I've learned. Family doesn't stop being family because you say no. The people who truly love you will eventually adjust to your boundaries. The ones who were only there for what you could provide will call you selfish the second you stop bleeding for them. It hurts. It's lonely. But sometimes distance is the only way to stop drowning in someone else's bad decisions. So let me ask you this. If the people draining your bank account and your sanity share your last name, would you keep paying the price just to be called loyal? Or would you walk away like I did, and finally give yourself permission to be your own family first?